Late 2018, a small office in Bandung, Indonesia. A 29-year-old founder stares at an Excel spreadsheet. His company has 3 months of cash left. In the bank, about $8,000. Then he starts typing. Fake revenue, fake growth, fake profit. In 1 hour, he does what 5 years of honest work never could. He turns his company into a winner. On paper. He hits send and waits to get caught. He doesn't. Instead, the money pours in. SoftBank, Temasek, Sequoia, a sovereign fund from Abu Dhabi. 6 years later, that spreadsheet is a $1.4 billion unicorn, and more than 75% of its revenue does not exist. This is the story of eFishery, the company that faked its fish. Because here's the thing, the beginning of this story is real, and it's remarkable. Gibran Huzaifah grew up on the edge of one of East Jakarta's poorest neighborhoods. His father supervised construction sites. His mother sold rice in a wet market. He won a place at the Bandung Institute of Technology, Indonesia's MIT, and paid his way by tutoring, working in a mini-market, and sometimes sleeping in mosques when the money ran out. Then, in an aquaculture class, he found his obsession. He rented a single catfish pond to make extra cash. By graduation in 2012, he was running 76 of them. And he'd learned the industry's dirty secret: feed. Feed is most of a fish farmer's cost. Feed too little, the fish starve. Feed too much, you burn money and poison the pond. So Gibran welded his own solution in a friend's garage, an automatic feeder you could trigger with a text message. In 2013, he founded eFishery. The pitch was beautiful. Hardware for the poorest farmers in the world. Data for the investors funding it. This was a real product, solving a real problem, built by a man who had actually lived it. But real products grow slowly, and venture capital doesn't wait. By December 2017, company filings in Singapore showed $8,142 in cash. The feeders cost up to $600 each. Too expensive for farmers living on a few dollars a day, so Gibran rented the machines out instead, which meant he bled cash on every unit. Investors kept saying no, so he asked other startup founders how they did it, how they raised, and the advice he says he got back was coded: winking, growth hacking. Numbers get massaged before a fundraise. Everyone does it. That night in late 2018, facing the void, he made his choice. He would keep 2 sets of books, a real one for himself, an inflated one for everyone else. The fake numbers worked instantly. The Series A closed, $4 million, and the reported revenue exploded from $185,000 in 2018 to $10 million in 2019, a 50-fold jump. Investors didn't ask how, they asked how much more. Now the machine fed itself. Every fake number brought real money, and every real dollar demanded faker numbers to justify the next round. In 2020, 20 million came in. In 2021, Masayoshi Son, the man behind SoftBank's $100 billion vision fund, took a pitch call from Tokyo. Gibran got 15 minutes into the deck before Son interrupted. He was in. Then a WhatsApp message arrived that Gibran assumed was spam. It was the chief executive of Temasek, Singapore's state investment giant, asking for a meeting. SoftBank, Temasek, and Sequoia India co-led a $90 million round at a $410 million valuation. And in July 2013 came the crown. $200 million led by an Abu Dhabi fund tied to UAE royalty. eFishery was now worth $1.4 billion. Indonesia's agritech miracle, 2,000 employees, a founder on magazine covers, preaching profitable, ethical growth. The company claimed hundreds of thousands of smart feeders in ponds across Indonesia. The real number, investigators would later find, was around 24,000. For every real feeder in the water, 16 existed only in the pitch deck. How do you fake $750 million business with infrastructure? By early 2022, the gap between the two books had grown so wide that simple padding couldn't cover it. So, Gibran says, an employee proposed a system. 5 new companies were quietly incorporated. More than 5,000 accounts were created in the names of fish feed and fish sale operations. Money left eFishery, looped through the network, and came back dressed as revenue. One entity posed as a giant customer, inflating sales. Another posed as a supplier, inflating costs to make it all look proportional. When investors flew in for due diligence, they asked eFishery's own database which farms to visit, so the company knew exactly where they were going. Local managers were handed fact sheets with the correct fake numbers to recite. Auditors, global names, signed off year after year. And the red flags, a component maker who said he could only build 5,000 feeders a year, while the company claimed hundreds of thousands deployed. Feed distributors whose sales hadn't moved in a market eFishery claimed to be revolutionizing, financial statements that were always 3 months late. Nobody pulled the thread. The fear of missing Indonesia's next unicorn was stronger than the arithmetic. In November 2024, one former senior employee, someone with access to the real books, walked their conscience to a board member. The board quietly opened an investigation, and Gibran knew the game was over. On December 11, he joined a 30-minute Zoom call with Amy Novogratz, his earliest institutional backer, his board member, his mentor, and confessed. 2 days later, he was suspended. Then the forensic accountants from FTI Consulting went in, and the 52-page draft report they produced detonated across Southeast Asia's startup world. Revenue for the first 9 months of 2024 reported at $752 million. Actual, $157 million. $600 million, more than 75% of it, invented. The $16 million profit investors had been shown, a $35 million loss. Since inception, the company had quietly burned through roughly $152 million. The report's conclusion, presented to investors, was one line of corporate last rites. eFishery is not commercially viable in its current form. Most employees were laid off. The Abu Dhabi fund that had wired $100 million would be projected to get back about $8 million. Total investor losses around $300 million. One of the biggest startup frauds Southeast Asia has ever seen. And then came the part almost no fraud story has. He explained it, himself, on the record. In April 2025, while under criminal investigation, Gibran Huzaifah sat with Bloomberg for 5 hours and walked them through the entire mechanism. The 2 books, the shell companies, the staged farm visits. Founders in his position hide behind lawyers. He gave a masterclass. His words, "I think I just did it to survive." He described it as a trolley problem. Tell the truth and kill the company, or lie and keep 2,000 employees and thousands of farmers alive. He apologized to the farmers. He insisted again and again that he never stole a dollar for himself. And here's the strangest detail. Investigators never proved he did. While other fallen founders fled to yachts and penthouses, Gibran stayed in Bandung, living, by most accounts, modestly. He didn't take the money and run. He burned it, feeding a fiction, so the fiction could raise more money to burn. On July 31, 2025, Indonesian police detained him anyway. Because the law doesn't sentence you for what you kept. It sentences you for what you took from others. April 29, 2026. Bandung District Court. The hearing takes barely an hour. Guilty, embezzlement, and money laundering. 9 years in prison. A fine of 1 billion rupiah. His finance lieutenant, 9 years. His head of AI, 7 Gibran. In tears, hugged his family in the courtroom. Through his representatives, he called the sentence an injustice. A crime, he said, where the intent and the flow of funds were never proven. His lawyers weighed an appeal, and to the last, he offered young founders his warning. If investors push for something, think it through carefully. The man who built a unicorn out of a catfish pond will spend most of the next decade in a cell. Roughly 1 year for every $150 million that never existed. Here's what should keep every investor awake. eFishery wasn't a fake company. The feeders were real. The farmers were real. The founder's story, the poverty, the ponds, the garage prototype, all real. That's exactly why it worked. The best lies are 90% true. SoftBank, Temasek, Sequoia, sovereign wealth funds, some of the most sophisticated money on the planet, ran diligence on this company for 6 years and let the company itself choose which ponds they visited. Nobody counted the feeders. Nobody called the feed mills. A 5,000-unit factory was supposedly supplying a 400,000-unit fleet, and the arithmetic sat there, in plain sight, unread. It took one employee with a conscience to do what $600 million of smart money never did. Check. The most expensive lessons in business are the ones somebody else already paid for. Subscribe, and I'll see you at the next collab.